Hey everybody, Jane here, and today I'm doing a book review on The Silence of Ghosts. This is about a man named Dominic who lives in England. He was a soldier during the Second World War and has come home an amputee. It is one of the books I chose for my disability readathon read, and I'm either using as a book that takes place in a country other than your own, because I live in the US, or one that takes place with a character with a physical disability. So Dominic and his sister, his sister is deaf, they are sent to a country house their parents own, and shortly after they start seeing ghosts. And they feel like the house is haunted. There is also a nurse there named Rose, who Dominic starts a friendship with that quickly turns to romance, who is also concerned about potentially the ghosts in this house. I rated this book a 2 out of 5. For those of you who don't know, I don't give books 2 very often. If a book is just something I didn't personally enjoy very much, I'll give it a 3 because as long as it's well written. I thought this book had a lot of problems, but also please remember to take this with a grain of salt because the horror genre is not necessarily a genre I read a lot in. This book is told from Dominic's point of view, as he is, most of it anyway, as he is writing in a journal. The beginning of the book is from the future, and I'll be honest, I wish they hadn't put it in because I felt like it gave away some things that this book didn't have enough content to give away things, so I would rather have them not. The stuff that takes place in our current time didn't add enough to the book that I felt it was important, either at the beginning or the end. So I was really kind of bummed about that, and the reveals that happen basically on the first page that probably would have been better held in on the book. That is not enough for me to give a book a 2 out of 5. I really did not enjoy the writing. This is told in a very literary tone, I don't know if the author was trying to be very careful to make the voice good, like appropriate for World War II, but I didn't at all like the tone and the writing of this book. The character voice, I guess. I'm going to assume the journaling is the character voice and not the other voice. I did not like it at all. And if the book wasn't so short, and it really is short, it's 189 pages. If the book had been any longer, I probably would have DNF'd it, but I was curious because it seemed really cool at first. So not only did I feel like the prologue and epilogue, all the stuff that happened in our time versus the diary time, didn't work, but I also really didn't like the character voice. Additionally, the wrap-up of the mystery / horror didn't work for me. I needed something a little bit different, and I will talk about it more specifically in my spoiler section. But yeah, I was really kind of not interested in, like, the way it wrapped up, I was really frustrated with. I felt like there was a lot of unanswered questions, and I felt like some of it was just kind of dumb, to be completely honest. So, additionally, I didn't really care for Dominic and Rose's romance. It didn't feel very good. And it was kind of creepy at times. Like, there's a lot of sexual tension, but it's just kind of, it didn't feel natural. And maybe it's because it was coming from a journal. Maybe it was because we only really get his side of things. But it was weird. I didn't like it. Another issue I had with the book is I wasn't sure how I felt about the deaf representation. Now, I'm not deaf and I don't have much experience with deaf culture or anything, but some of the things that were said in here kind of made me wonder how accurate the representation for deafness was. The representation for amputation is pretty similar to a lot of other stuff I've read, so I felt like that was probably pretty accurate. And again, this is being written as a diary, so maybe the character doesn't know things, and that's okay. Yeah, just this book was kind of, most of the time I was going through it, it was a low 3. I really wasn't enjoying it, but I wanted to see what happened. I wanted to find out about these ghosts. And when I did find out about the ghost, it ended up being a complete letdown for me. I have read other books or other reviews on Goodreads, and apparently a lot of people agreed that this was not this author's best book. So I'm open to trying more books by this author possibly, but this one was not at all a win for me. I was really disappointed with it, and as I said, the payoff at the end was kind of crappy. So I'm going to go into a spoiler section where I talk in detail about kind of what happens in this book. Since it's a ghost story, I feel like I don't want to give too much away without the spoiler warning ahead. If you would not like to continue until after you've read the book, I totally understand. Feel free to click off now. My social media is below if you'd like to check me out or check out any of the books I have written. Links to everything below. Alright, so I'm about to go into full detail about this book in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so let me give you a recap of kind of what happens in this book. Octavia, which is the deaf sister, and Dominic show up at this house, and Octavia is hearing voices, which is very strange because she's deaf. Now, she can understand these voices. Now, she has also only been deaf since she was 5, and the deafness is kind of confusing to me because at some point in the book, she gets a hearing aid, and she can't understand the people around her, but she can understand these ghosts, even though we also learn that these ghosts are not speaking English, they're speaking Portuguese. So Octavia and her brother find these ghosts and are pretty freaked out by the ghosts. Now Dominic has summered in this house before, so he thinks the ghost must just be attracted to Octavia. And we're given this long, drawn out thing of her getting sick. Octavia's showing signs of leprosy, and him and the nurse are kind of trying to figure out what's going on. They try to do an exorcism on the house, and the priest is killed, and the blood is drained from his body. It just, a lot of weird stuff was happening, and I really was hoping for a cool payoff, like some explanation. And instead what I got was maybe, because I wasn't even 100% clear on this ending. There was a guy who used to be Dominic's great, however many grandfather. And they find in the attic corpses. He was importing these Portuguese children who could talk to ghosts, and like people were sending letters to have them ask questions to these ghosts. And the children maybe developed leprosy and died up there too. Like, they break, at the very end of the book, they break the attic wall down, more or less. They find the door and open it, and there's these dead bodies and the 4 dead children, and by then Octavia has already succumbed to leprosy. And we're told in the very first page that she is a ghost. So we know that she dies, and I think that was supposed to add maybe to the intrigue and to get you interested. For me, I was kind of like, I don't care. I mean, why are you telling me she dies and then, it takes forever for her to die? I know she's in danger. I mean, I didn't like that. But there was not a lot of explanation. About the only thing we get is they're interested in Octavia because she can hear them because she's deaf. And that's why, and of course, there's a suggestion that he never goes deeply into that she might be Portuguese, half Portuguese, which I think was strange because he never confronts his parents about this. He never, like, he is an adult and she's only 10. So I feel like he would have noticed if she was not his full biological sister. Like, I felt like that was just thrown in, like, oh, possibly she's Portuguese. Okay. Just a lot of random. This book just felt so random and so all over the place. And then on top of it, they go up there, they find these bodies, and these bodies are sitting around. I'm like, if you have leprosy and you died of leprosy, are you really just going to be sitting in a chair rotting? Because that's kind of what he finds from generations ago. They're sitting in this chair rotting. All these bodies are here in the attic decaying, and nobody noticed and nobody smelled anything. All the summers that he visited this home, and I guess they're all mummified, but it just, okay. Then on top of it, they go up there, they find all these dead bodies that have been taken for the children to talk to, and these dead children, dead from leprosy, supposedly, maybe, possibly. And they're like, oh, that's weird. Then they just close the door, wallpaper it up, and walk away from the house. They don't burn the sucker to the ground, even though, whatever sparked the children, perhaps being able to talk to Octavia, that killed the priest that they have encountered. Because at one point, they're like, when they're with the priest, the ghost things, not the children ghosts, but some dark force is like screaming at them to get out. So much craziness happens, and it didn't make any real sense that I could find. So maybe, possibly, Octavia could hear the ghosts because she was deaf. She was possibly also part Portuguese. Maybe. The brother's not sure. And maybe that's why the ghosts were connecting to her. And I don't even know. But this book was a complete hot mess. Now, it is possible, since this is not my typical genre, that I missed things. And I will say it was interesting as, we were going along. I didn't love Dominic's voice, but I was like, okay, so we're seeing ghosts. There's these 4 ghost children. They look really sick. Octavia's got all these weird symptoms. There have been several people who have been drowned. It was fine until the payoff, and I was like, that was not a payoff. I still have no clue what happened in this book. I was so mad. I was so mad when I finished this book, because I was like, what was this? What did I just read? So yeah, that is the payoff at the end. And like I said, then at the very, very end, you've got the present day guy being like, hey, I'm not sure what to do with this house, but I named my kid Octavia. So you walk into this house and there's a ghost, and you're cool with that, and now you're like, there's ghosts that killed a ton of people. Wonder what I should do with the house. Dominic, Grandpa or whatever, should have burned the whole place down and called it a day. But he doesn't. The other thing is, Dominic's parents in this are awful. They're awful from the get-go. And he uses that as proof that his sister might be Portuguese. Like, oh, maybe that's why my mom didn't love my sister, because she's not really hers. But their parents are awful to both of them from the get-go. And at the beginning, he does say that he thinks it's because Octavia's deaf and he now is an amputee. But even before then, he was not the masculine, tough guy that his dad wanted him to be. And we never really get to explore his relationship with his parents very deeply, other than, I don't like my parents, they're horrible people, they don't want me to get married to Rose because they're prejudiced that she's not important enough, and Then his parents are killed in a bombing of London, and it's fine. And it just, oh my gosh, this book, it was just so frustrating. I really, really, really was angry at this book. So angry. I cannot even tell you how angry, because it had so much potential, it had an interesting premise, and it just was a complete mess. So, have you read other books by this author? Are they all a complete mess and should I just steer clear? Or, as some of the reviews indicated, is this just one that maybe wasn't his best and some of his others have more content? Make more sense? I mean, whatever you got here. So yeah, let me know if you've read this, what you thought, if you've read other books by this author, what's good, what makes sense. And let me just be really clear. For me, I need something solid. I need it to make sense. I need it to be comprehensible. And I would prefer it not to be so literary sounding too, because at first the big thing I didn't like was just the tone of voice. And I can kind of get past that, but I wasn't loving that. And then to have everything else that didn't work for me on top of it just totally killed this book for me. So yeah, if you have read this book, please comment below. As I said earlier, all of my social media is below, including links to my books. I am an author of romance, so if you'd like to check out one of my books, feel free to do so. There's also different ways to connect with me down there too. If you are new to the channel and would like more content, please hit subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a like. Thanks guys, Jane here, bye.